Everyone, welcome to the Ask Ken show, and thank you everyone who is watching this, whether it's live or on replay. And let's bring Kevin Hughes in of Cavalli Channeling. Come on in, Kevin, join us.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy Halloween. Welcome to the Ask Ken show semi-annual. Apparently Halloween comes twice a
Monthly.
year now. No, I was talking about the semi-annual Halloween
Kevin,
edition.
just for you, we'll haunt you twice a year. We'll go
Ooh.
twice a year. So yeah, Halloween's one time, and then later on in the spring.
We'll just make up a mid-year Halloween special.
Yeah, some pagans and they celebrate all year round, so why not, right?
The equinox. Isn't there something about the equinox that we can
That's right.
celebrate some kind of haunting
And the moon and
Hollywood
all that other
style?
stuff.
I want to do
Yeah.
like a Hollywood style haunting where like the windows crack and the lights flash and
Ooh, that would be pretty cool.
yeah, let's do it.
We
We'll
could
make
go
it
into
like a
some
haunted house edition.
the haunted house edition. What do you guys think of that? Haunted
I
house
like
edition.
it. So again,
we'll just have Kevin like stand behind the corner and jump out, and go boo.
that would be scary.
Actually, would yeah.
Right? Because as soon as I jump, that double, triple chin is going to start wagging. People are going to run.
And how would you describe that triple chin?
I know the guy had short, spiky hair and had 5 chins, and he was really scary.
The chin was longer than his hair.
But he did have really nice blue eyes.
I give you that. You got that going for you.
So before we lose everybody that's watching, guys, this is your show. This is a chance that you get to pick Mr. Ken Lewicki's brain and get him to use his channeling skills that he has literally trained thousands and thousands of people across the world. And you get to do it for free. All we ask is that you keep the questions to more general. This isn't a mini reading session, so it's not, does my Aunt Julie on the other side get to have anything for me? This is more general. And if you want, it's Halloween. Make it spooky. Get the spooky questions out. I have a couple, but I'm going to leave most of the spooky questions to the audience and see. I'm really interested to see where it goes tonight, because we could be asking to be in big trouble here.
So those of you watching live, there's 2 things. First of all, no matter whether you have a question or not, just say hello, write your name in there, say, hi, I'm so-and-so from wherever you are, in whatever major city or close by or whatever like that, so we can give you a shout out. And the second thing, you can ask any questions about spirituality, about channeling, about, even if it's about me or whatever, that's fine as well. So anything you want to ask, just go ahead and type it in there, and then Kevin will see the questions come in, and then we'll decide. He'll decide what to ask, what not, all that fun stuff. But so first thing is, say hi, everyone. Right in there. And
Pamela Kujala. Kujala says, hi, Ken and Kevin. Where are you from, Pamela?
Where are you from, Pamela?
So, while we're waiting for the questions to come in, because I'm sure there's going to be a ton of questions piling in. And again, if you have a question, just type them into the chat and we will get to them. Let's start with the first question, because this is my question, because I've heard this quite often, and it's something Ken and I talk all the time, but it's something I have never asked Ken. So is it true that the veil is thinner around the Halloween holiday time frame?
Yeah, so let's just clarify what people mean by, is the veil thinner. So basically, there's where we reside, which I call the earth plane, and then there's 3 different realms. There's the astral realm, there's the in-between realm, and then there's the animal spirit realm. So what people are talking about when is the veil thinner is that, is it easier to access the other side? So the astral realm in this case. And the answer is, it depends. So I don't want to get too caught up in thinking so I teach people how to channel anywhere, anytime, on the spot, in the moment, any time of year. It doesn't matter whether it's a full moon, half moon, new moon. It's Halloween, it's not Halloween. It's 365 days of the year, 24/7. You can channel, you can connect just as strongly as when it's not. So Is there times and periods when the veil might be slightly thinner? And the answer is yeah, that's possible. But does it really make a big difference? No. Do I really follow it, or does it affect me in any way? No, because I'm just always connected to the other side all the time anyway, which is the whole point of, you know. So I don't want people to get too caught up, but it is. If you're really in tune, you can notice that there might be more spiritual activity, and that's possible, and that's kind of
Okay.
cool.
That
So yeah, that's possible. But again, like most spirits, as they call them, most of them are good and they're benign and they're of the light and all that, and those are the ones in the astral realm. So um, it's a good thing. But I don't play too much into it or follow it because I'm just always connected to the other side.
which totally makes sense.
And I know kind of it's not a glamorous answer, but
I was hoping for way more Hollywood
it's
though.
it's kind of irrelevant to me, and that's where I want to get all my students is where it's irrelevant to them because they're just always connected.
Connected. I know I had somebody ask me, how do I connect? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm always connected. Lori Parks from Ontario, Canada, has a question. Does that mean I won't be with my pets when I cross over? Are they somewhere else?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So
Great
there's
question.
three different realms. We won't talk about the in-between realm just yet, but there's basically the astral realm, which is where human souls go when they die and they cross over, and then there's animal spirit realm, which is where your pets go, and also other animals on the planet where their souls go when they die and they cross over. So the thing is with realms is that they can communicate in between realm, like to each other. So you sometimes, like let's say on the other side, I will see grandpa, and I grandpa will have his dog there, and that's the dog that when I would go over to visit grandpa would have the dog there, and now the dog is talking to. So it's you can communicate with both on the other side, and when you are on the other side in the astral realm, you can still communicate with your deceased pets in the animal spirit realms too. So nothing to worry about in that case. It's kind of like a family reunion, and when I say that, that also includes pets, animals that you've had throughout your existence here on planet Earth, your
That is
lifetime.
awesome. I have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah,
Is it true that a lot of times your animal will be there to greet you when you cross over?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Not always. Oftentimes, it's your human souls from your soul family. Those are the primary ones. But yeah, you can have some pets. Not always. Not always. Like it's you can have. Let's say throughout my lifetime on this planet, this one lifetime, I've had maybe let's say 5 pets. I'm just making up a random number.
Hmm.
One of them might be there to greet me, or maybe all 5, or maybe 3 of them, or maybe none of them. But
Oh,
you will definitely always have your soul family members greet you and welcome you when you do cross over to the other side. That's a
that's
really
very
good
cool.
question. Yeah.
That's very cool because a lot of us,
That, and I'm checking that too. Like I'm getting goosebumps when
yeah,
I
you
like
too.
I'm checking that. Yeah. They always you will have human souls from the astral realm, from your soul family welcome you back to the astral
That's
realm.
awesome.
Will there always be pets? Sometimes. Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But
Um,
you can still communicate with them. So after someone dies, you go into a containment period where you process, and being incarnated on Earth, what that was like. You kind of do a life review, a bunch of other things, and then after that containment period, it could last weeks or months. And then after that, you're released to the general public in the astral realm. Then after that, then you can go and communicate with your pets in the animal spirit realm and stuff like that. So in
very
in
cool.
spirit form when you're in the astral realm and spirit form, yeah.
I think one episode of this Ask Ken show, we should spend almost a whole episode kind of going over what is the other side. We always talk about it. I don't want to do it tonight, but another episode we should do it where we talk in
Yeah,
detail of what is over there, because
yeah.
not a lot of people have done what you've done and has traveled over there and been able to see it or have been showing it. We'll
Mhm.
save that for another time. Here's a great, it seems like we're going on a bit of a question theme here. Will your pet reincarnate with you? This is
Yeah,
from Pamela.
great. Thank you, Pamela, for the question. So the answer is yes. So your pet can. reincarnate with you. So let me say it a different way. There's a couple of possibilities, and again, I say possibilities because there's a lot of variables involved here. So you can have one pet, let's say when you're a kid, and then that pet could die because in general, cats and dogs last like 10, 12, like they live for 10 to 12 years, maybe 15 if you're lucky. Some live beyond that, but not that many. So oftentimes they'll have a shorter lifespan than us. And then when you're older, let's say you might want to get another pet, and you might have that same soul. It's possibility that that one pet that you had as a child is now this has died and crossed over to the animal spirit realm, but then has reincarnated, and you've acquired that pet at an older age, but it's the same soul, the same pet. Like it could be a different breed or whatever, but same soul, animal
Can it
soul.
be? Can it be like a instead of being a dog? Can it be a cat?
Yes, in that
Yeah.
case, that's true. Yeah. So just to clarify, and I do teach this in my animal certification workshop, where actually you will learn all the difference between the different realms, the animal spirit realm and the astral realm, and a whole bunch of topics on the animals and all that. And you will see and get to verify with your own guides that the human souls, we're not better or worse. I don't go into all that crap. We're the dominion of this planet and we could just do whatever we want. No, and trash it. And I can't stand that kind of hierarchy thing, like we're superior. It's not about that. However, a human soul really truly is different than an animal spirit soul. They really are. So what I'll do is I get my students to actually verify and check that there are differences. So what one of the exercises I take my students through is where they'll actually get to experience their pet, like actually channel and check to see if their pet has actually incarnated as a different kind of animal in another previous lifetime of theirs, of that animals. And the answer is yes, it really does.
That's
However,
awesome.
some people have this theory that human souls can be incarnate as an animal, or an animal soul can incarnate as a human. I haven't found that to be true, so I've actually channeled this many several times. If you are a human soul, you will reincarnate as a human, and if you are an animal soul, you will reincarnate as an animal. However, it's possible that those animal souls can reincarnate as different animals. And to answer Pamela's question, is that so oftentimes what happens is when we have, let's say we have a lifetime with, and then we might have a pet in that lifetime, and then the pet dies and crosses over the animal spirit realm, and then we die and we cross over the astral realm, and then in another lifetime we decide to incarnate, and then at a later period we acquire a pet. Yes, it could be the same soul that we had in a previous lifetime. So the answer is yes to both. Is it always that case? Not necessarily. Is it guaranteed? Not necessarily. So this is more of an Akashic Records kind of talk, is that before we incarnate, we have certain contracts, deals, and agreements that we want to try to play out in this lifetime, but there's not a guarantee on that. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of people think it's set in stone. It's not, because two factors. One is there's other people's free will that might change your trajectory of your life throughout your lifetime. Like, let's say, for example, your parents decide that they're going to move to another city when you're really young. Well, you didn't have a say in that, even if they
Yeah.
weren't supposed to move and it wasn't in their best interest, but they decided to anyways. Now, next thing you grew up in another city, or maybe on an acreage somewhere in the middle of nowhere, even though that wasn't part of the initial plan. But that's okay. You can still change trajectories and still try to fulfill those contracts, deals, and agreements that you had set out. A different way you can try to. And then, so there's other people's free will that's involved. And then there's also your free will. And the reason I bring this up is, let's say you go to a giant pet shelter where you can basically acquire a pet, and you go in there and there might be, let's say, 100 different cats and 100 different dogs. Well, you can go in there and you're really drawn to one, and that is the one you were meant to choose, but then you change your mind and you choose a different pet. Now all of a sudden you have this pet that, it's not bad, you'll still make the best of it and it can still be a beautiful, wonderful relationship. But the first pet that you were thinking about acquiring was that same soul that you had of the pet from a previous lifetime.
Yes.
So the answer is yes, but there's a lot of variables involved. And then there's also the people who, maybe somebody decided that they had to move and they moved into a place where they couldn't keep their pet, so they gave it to the shelter, and then you went there and you acquired that pet. Or then maybe they were going to give it to the shelter, but they gave it to a friend instead, so you never did acquire that pet. Like there's a lot of variables in there. So that was the other person's free will that changed that scenario in that case, and
And
on and on.
it's I love the way you had to weave that in with the free will and the pets, because it does, everything makes a difference in life, right?
Well, too many people think that like our life is set in stone. And so let me give you an idea, more detailed is that when before we incarnate, we kind of have a rough blueprint of what we want to do and achieve and acquire in this lifetime, how we want to grow and evolve as a soul, what kind of contracts, deals, and agreements we want to play out, and things like that. It's a rough outline, like a blueprint, a rough blueprint, and we might we might fulfill some of those or none of them or all of them. Most likely not all of them, but we can fulfill a majority of them. Or we can take a totally different trajectory. And again, it's not necessarily good or bad or right or wrong, but it's just a totally different trajectory. And then we fulfill different kinds of contract, like Akashic Records kind of stuff. So,
Exactly.
but too many people think it's like it has to be this. And no, that's not what I found. And I used to think that way too. And then I checked and channeled it, and even right now when I'm channeling right now, I'm checking that there's so many variables that happen when we incarnate.
Exactly. I'm going to get in some highs here. Kim Bukowski says hi, Ken and Kevin.
Hi,
Candice
Ken.
Wheeler from Okotoks says
Hi, Candace.
hi. Of course, Lori Parks. We took questions from Lori Parks. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anybody. If you're tuning in late, please
Hi,
um,
Carolyn. Carolyn
type,
as well.
Carolyn as well. Type in your questions. I will try to get to as many as I possibly can. Uh, Kenny Kathleen says hi as well.
Hi,
We have
Kenny.
another question from Candice Wheeler Suhai. I hope I'm saying that name right, Candice. Does the soul leave the body right before the body dies, or does it leave a time before the body dies?
Yeah, so there's a couple variables. I wish that like everything was like just clean. I kind of found that channeling, like spirituality is like life is kind of messy. So things don't always happen like, exactly the same every single time in most cases. There might be some exceptions, but in most cases. So this is one of the cases where when somebody dies, um, I remember hearing a story about where Edgar Casey, he's this like cool spiritual guru from I think the
Yeah.
30s or something like that. But anyways, he was he was in a high rise building, and he was about to go and get on this elevator, and then the elevator opened up, and he was like on a one of the higher floors up, and the elevator opened up, and every single person in that elevator, they were standing there, they were alive, but they had no souls. And he's like, nope, I'm not getting on this elevator. And then what happened was the elevator doors closed, and that elevator ended up falling, and all those people died.
Oh,
And
wow.
well, I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
And yeah, like so he noticed that their souls had already left their body in this example, because they knew what was going to happen. Like their souls, it was already preordained in that case. So
Exactly.
what can happen is, let's say somebody is on their deathbed, is their soul, or like in a coma or something like that, their soul can leave their body before their physical container seats, like the breathing stops in the brain and all that other stuff, the physical function stop, or it can happen at the moment of death, like that moment. So those are the two scenarios. Or I've also seen where the soul will it wants to stay, even though the body is like gone, and as the body can't stay. And then the soul will still stay, but then after the body dies, then the soul will eventually leave, um, a few minutes or so later. And then also to like, let's say for example there's an accident, and the person's unconscious and they appear to be dead, there's no pulse, all that, and then you have a emergency personnel come to the scene, and they're doing CPR, and they're trying to revive the body, and then let's say they're successful, the soul was still there, or the soul might have left temporarily, and then no, oh, the body's coming back to life, and then it comes back in. So again, there's a lot of different variables in that scenario. um,
Again, there's no
it's not
set.
clean cut. Pardon
Yeah,
me.
it's not, this is how it happens every time. There's no set way it
Yeah.
happens.
Life is kind of messy. Like there's we have before we die, or sorry, before we incarnate, we oftentimes have a pre-planned exit points, more than one, that we've already agreed to. However, sometimes things don't turn out that way, and you know, actually, it's rare. It doesn't happen that often, but I have had scenarios where people I know have died and they weren't meant to die at that point. That was not an exit point. That was not a time in their life where they actually weren't. But however, that is rare. Most people, even if people think, oh, that was an accident, oftentimes it was already preordained. They already had
It
that
was an exit
that
point in.
time set scheduled to exit this lifetime. And again, it's on the astral realm. When if you can ask your spirit guides or a loved one if that was bad, or you know, all that, and they'll be like, no, no, I chose it. It's fine. I'm fine. All that stuff. So what can happen is, let's say, for example, that accident happened and that person's laying on the ground unconscious, and then emergency personnel shows up, and maybe they make a different decision and the person doesn't live. So then that soul has to take that exit point. But then let's say that another scenario happens and that emergency personnel makes a decision that keeps the body alive. And then the soul's like, you know what, maybe I will stay. So then the soul comes back into the body. That person does live. And then they choose another point, predetermined point later on in their life to return back to the astral realm. So there's a lot of different scenarios.
Very
Good
cool.
question. Yeah.
Very cool. This is going to lead right into that discussion. When you incarnate, are you automatically assigned a guardian angel? And you'll see why I said it will lead right in.
Yeah, so this is a theory that I've had some people say. There's a couple theories on this. One is that um, they think, so I want to make it very clear, like a soul is a soul is a soul. And so oftentimes when people refer to, oh, your grandma's like a guardian angel, she's your guardian angel. So what they mean is she's not actually an angel, she's a soul. She's a loved one who's on the other side, who watches over you, cares for you, all that, loves you. She might be a spirit guide, she might not, but either way. So I'm very careful about making sure that when I teach my students about channeling, we're talking about we're using precise language and descriptors about what we're actually talking about. So if a soul is a soul, that's a soul. And if it's an angel, then it's an angel. Grandma's not an angel, even if you want to think she is. Like I understand what they're referring to is that she has like angelic like qualities, and she's such a sweetheart and beautiful and wonderful. And so when they say your grandma's like a guardian angel, it's an endearing term. Like it's so sweet of her and nice of her. However, she's not an angel. So I actually stay away from that term guardian angel, because if it's an angel, which I do teach people how to channel in my level 3 expert level, my channeling workshop, I'll teach them how to do that. And then I'll have them do a comparison between an angel and a soul, and they'll see it's completely different. And grandma's definitely not an angel. She's a soul. So that's first thing is, I've had other students who they think that when you're incarnated, when you incarnate, you have automatically um, like somebody assigned to you. So there is some truth in that, where you have spirit guides. So what happens is when you die and you cross over, you go back to the astral realm to be with your soul family. But while you're incarnated, certain members of your soul family will help and assist you. Those are your spirit guides. So we get them right from birth, right when we're born, and we get them immediately. So right away. There is a possibility that you could have a spirit guide that's with you for your entire lifetime, or you can have a spirit guide that's with you for a season of your life. Then when that season's done, that spirit guide could step back, and then the next season a new guide could step forward. When that season's done, that guide could step back, and the next season another one could step forward, and so on and so on. So you can have a guide with you your whole life, or you might have guides that switch in between different seasons of your life. So what I think these some people are implying is, do I have a guide that's with me from my, is it like I have a guide who is assigned to me, or a soul who's assigned to me from birth all the way to death? And the answer I'm getting is, um, you have spirit guides. It's possible that you can have one with you for the whole lifetime, but it's more likely that you'll have ones that switch out during different periods of your life, is the answer. And then the other thing that I've also heard people say is that, um, does everyone have an angel that they're assigned? And that the answer that I've checked at, and I even now when I check again, I'm getting a no on that. So like they think that an angel is like assigned to every single human. I have heard that theory, but every time I check, I keep getting a no on that. You have your spirit guides from your soul family, and those are the ones who help and assist you.
That makes total sense. Total sense. Changing the subject. Totally. Um, what is a Tao? I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Tao. And how can you use it in channeling?
Yeah, so great question. So it's actually called Tao. It's
Tao.
spelled Tao, but it's actually
Oh,
the
okay.
Tao, and it's so basically it's a term where it's called like in the middle. So with channeling, what you want to do is you want to be really balanced when you're channeling your spirit guides. So and just in your life in general, you want to be in. It's kind of like being in the zone. So there's two definitions that I've heard about this that I really like. The first definition is think of it like a pendulum. So a lot of people in different areas of their life, it could be any area of their life, it could be finances, relationships, it could be emotional stability, it could be career, it could be da da da, like you name it. Any one of those, we could be outside of the Tao, outside of it, or we can be on one extreme or the other, which isn't healthy. But let's think of it like a pendulum swinging. So the being in the Tao is kind of like being in the middle zone. You're balanced. You're not one extreme. You're not the other extreme. And this is actually really a healthy thing. And then the other um, concept I've heard about the Tao is actually from Wayne Dyer, where he talked about one time where think of it like you're on a sailboat, and the sail you have to move the sail constantly to try to get the wind to capture the most amount of wind to get the boat moving when it's hitting the sail. So with the Tao, you're constantly moving the sail to get the maximum amount of wind to hit that. But it's a constant adjusting of where you're going to move that sail to maximize that. So that's how we live life. And so with channeling, what a lot of people do when they don't channel, just people who are just kind of like floating through life randomly, is they'll just be like, oh, I don't know, I'm just going to go this direction. Now I'm going to go that direction. Now, whatever, I don't know, maybe I just won't do anything for a while or whatever. But when you're channeling, you actually want to purposely be in the Tao and constantly be getting course correction from your spirit guides as to, oh, now I'm going to go this way. Okay, good. Now I'm going to go that way. Okay, good. And now I'm going to go this way. Okay, good. And I'm constantly getting course correction from my spirit guides who are helping me in these different areas of my life so I can be balanced and I can also be in the maximum healthiest trajectory that I can be in whichever area they're guiding me in.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. So it's spelled Tao, but it's actually
But it
sounds like the Dow, Dow. It's what
yeah,
it sounds like. Yeah,
makes way more sense than Tao. I'm like, Tao, what's that? Um, and I read it and I'm like, oh, sounds like
yeah.
Tao.
It's what you
But
use after the
Tao.
shower.
Yeah, it's a towel.
Yeah.
You're a funny, funny man. Um, this
So,
is
in
a
case
good
you haven't
question.
noticed, my slogan for those of you watching is spirituality is meant to be fun. So, I do try to keep things light and upbeat because I just feel that, like, there's so much seriousness in spirituality. And if we're out there trying to make a difference and a positive difference in the world, then people are going to be attracted to people who are positive, upbeat. Like, don't get me
Yes.
wrong, I'm not perfect or faking it. Like, there's times when I'm down and, upset about things and all that. But in general, if I can make spirituality fun, just think how much more attractive that is to the public, to the masses, that they're like, I want that. I want to have fun with spirituality. Yeah, and
Well, yeah. Who do you
looking
want to
forward
hang out with? The guy in the corner weeping because he's freaked out because something happened, or the guy in the bright orange seasonal shirt because it's Halloween that
yeah,
is having fun? I mean, come on. It's
I was
the
waiting
kid
for
in the hoodie and the guy in the orange shirt. That's who you want to hang out with. Come on now.
yeah.
This is a
So
great question.
okay.
Can you ever get overwhelmed with channeling?
Um, you can. I have back in the early days. I didn't know how to do something I teach now. It's called boundaries with souls, like how to make sure that I'm not like letting too many souls come in all at once and they're taking over and um, basically constantly chattering and yittering. Is that a word?
Yittering.
I like that word, yittering, and all that. So you can become overwhelmed, but it's not really once you become more advanced. So there's a couple things to this. First thing is, we have our physical body, so like our container, our different organs and systems and things like that, and that's great. We need that. However, what also makes us up as a human is dozens, if not hundreds, of non-physical aspects of us, and sometimes those aspects of us are very they could either be unhealthy or permeable, and just letting anything in spiritually, like left, right, and center, and it's not, oftentimes it's not someone's fault, they're not doing it purposely, although there are some people who do dabble in that. I highly recommend staying away from anything that is dark or whatever you want to call it, diabolical or anything like that, and just allow yourself to be just stay work in the light like all the time. However, sometimes our non-physical infrastructure isn't as healthy as it can be, and then so we can be very permeable, and spiritual stuff can affect us a lot more easily than other people. And so what I do I'll also do with my students is what's called spiritual upgrades and enhancements and activations and different like attunements and things like that. And that gives you um, the basically the strength or the capacity to be more resilient to these kinds of spiritual things, so that you're still there and you're still aware of what's going on spiritually. They're just not coming in like a Swiss cheese kind of scenario where they just come in through these massive holes in your systems, and you're feeling everything left, right, and center. So there's that part of it. But then there's the other part of it is when you learn to channel really good at really high levels, you can be like, listen, no, I'm not talking to you right now. I'm talking to this one. You step back.
Yes.
And this is who I'm talking to. And then when you're done with that one, you can see, okay, and with your guide's guidance, talking to your spirit guides, you're like, okay, who next? So now this one. And then you can talk to that one, communicate with that one. And you're very, very strict about who you're communicating with. You're taking charge of everything in your life. If you want to go to sleep and you just like, I want to be left alone so I can sleep in peace and things like that. Yeah. You can do all that. You can take charge. So that's why I recommend the spiritual upgrades and enhancements and the actual formal training, so you learn how to take control of everything spiritual.
And I think it's quite important that you are in control when you're channeling. Thus, I'm a huge proponent in don't try just going out and channeling. Get professional training because um, it can affect you.
Yeah. Yeah. I really, a lot of people, they come to me and they're like, oh, I channel. And I'm like, yeah, you do. So why do I need training on channeling?
Yeah,
And it's not that you could probably be fine and not
yeah,
do it. However, these are the possible scenarios that might come up where you're just getting flooded with different information, or maybe you sense a presence, but you don't really know who it is or what it is. That's what I do. And that's why I've developed my whole entire curriculum around, like channeling training, where it's like a 50-page plus manual for each workshop, channeling levels 1, 2, and 3, and then it's a formal kind of training. And then I actually take you through the exercises and the scenarios to help you practice. Oh, this is how I protect myself. This is how I make sure I'm channeling safe. This is how I make sure I operate in the light, because I'm learning how to channel my guide. My guide's directing me which way to go and not to go, and what precautions to take. And it's actually a lot more advanced than just, okay, I know how to channel, so why do I need formal training? Well, you don't, but if you really want to channel at advanced levels, then I highly recommend it, like Kevin said.
awesome. Oh, this is cool. This is a question from Nancy, who is watching on YouTube. Because, of
Yeah.
course, not only are we on Facebook, on Twitter, we're also live on YouTube. Can a spirit guide be with you through several lifetimes?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Thank you, Nancy. So good question. Okay, so what happens is when we die and we cross over to the astral realm, we'll go to the astral realm to be with our soul family. And in our soul family, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of members of our soul family that are there. Oftentimes, we've had these members of our soul family, we've incarnated many lifetimes together. So let's say one lifetime we've incarnate with 3 of them, another lifetime we incarnate with 7 of them, another lifetime we incarnate with 20 of them, another lifetime we incarnate with 4 of them, and so on and so on. So it could vary. There's lots of different factors and variables involved in that. And so when we're incarnated, let's say in this lifetime, we can have we'll have, let's say, 3 to 5 spirit guides that are helping us in this specific season of our life. Who are our spirit guides? They're members of our soul family. Those are the ones who are your spirit guides, okay? So they're the ones helping you and assisting you in this lifetime. However, more times than not, you have actually incarnated with these souls in different lifetimes, and you know each other. You've incarnated together, and you know each other really well, not just from the astral realm, but also from previous lifetimes that you've had. So really, really great question. And oftentimes too, in a previous lifetime, those same souls that are in the astral realm can also be your spirit guides multiple times throughout many different lifetimes. In each lifetime, they're helping you to ascend, helping you with your soul's evolution and fulfill those contracts, deals, and agreements I talked about earlier, and on and on and on. Yes, really, really great question. Thank you,
Great
Nancy.
question. Awesome. Is there a way that we as soul encompassed with a flesh and bone, are we able to see future events in our life with accuracy?
Yeah, yeah, it's possible. So there's a topic that I teach about, and it's called your life path. Okay, so your life path, and I hold it like this on purpose because ideally we want to be on an upward trajectory. And there's
Yes,
been times in
hopefully.
my life when I've been on this trajectory. So any of you out there who are feel like so let me clarify. It's impossible for a soul not to evolve. It's impossible. It doesn't matter what trajectory you're on, you're still evolving as a soul. A soul is always,
Thank
always
you.
evolving, whether they're incarnated or in spirit form. Because yes, even in the astral realm, your soul is still evolving, you're still learning and growing and evolving in the astral realm. So um, ask your question again.
Sorry, I went on to something else. Is it possible to see future events?
Yes. So what happens is in that life path that you're having on that trajectory that you have, you can actually project yourself forward. And there's a bit of cautions about that. Is like, what are the biggest questions that people ask? Am I going to win $1 million? Am I going to meet the man of my dreams? Am I going to have that, white picket fence with 2.5 children or whatever it is? Like
Yeah.
all these future based kind of messages. Am I going to get that job interview or, get that job that I just went to an interview for and stuff like that. So there, let's take the example of the job interview. You went to a job interview, you went there, you rocked it, and you're asking, okay, am I going to get this job that I just went to the interview for? So the reason why oftentimes your spirit guides won't give you the answers to that is because there's too many variables involved. Like because now you're involving other people where those people are interviewing other people, not just you, and they have free will. Like, so let's say the hiring manager or the HR person or whoever it is, like 2 or 3 of them might be consulting and go, well, I like this person because of this, but I like that person. And now they're deciding and they might choose a different path than, right. So it might be different. So you might or might not get that job interview and it might be difficult to tell. However, there are times when I get future based answer messages for myself and it's crystal clear, and sure enough it does happen. What I do want to caution my students about though is being so much in the future, like, oh, I want to go on to Oprah to be on her TV show or whatever, and it's like, okay, well that's great, and you know and you're asking your guides constantly, day in week out, am I going to be on Oprah, am I going to be on Oprah? And the bigger thing that they want to answer is, okay, that's great. You have these aspirations of what you want to do in the future, is in this case, be on Oprah. But the real question is, what can I do right now to start progressing in that direction so that Oprah
Yes.
notices me and goes, hey, this guy is a major mover and shaker in this industry. I want to bring him on my TV show and interview him or her. That's the bigger
Great
question.
way to, yes.
So please, 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 if you're listening out there and with channeling, please ask your guides as much as possible. Try to keep bringing it back to present moment questions.
What
Like,
can I do now?
yeah, what can I do now? So like, oh, I got something going on with my daughter or whatever. And, I want to know future based stuff. Is she going to grow up this way? Is she going to grow up that way? Your guides won't answer that question for 2 reasons. One is because it's to do with your daughter. But
Yeah.
the other thing that they'll want you to ask is things like, well, instead of us focusing on that, the real thing we should be focusing on is, how can I be a better parent now for my daughter? How can I be a healthier parent now for my daughter? What can I do now to improve my parenting skills or be more supportive to him or her, or, whatever the scenario is. So keep bringing it back to the present moment questions with your spirit guides as much as possible.
What a great, great answer. That's awesome. Awesome. Um, does a soul always reincarnate?
No, no, no. A soul does not always reincarnate.
Okay,
It
and
can.
moving on to the next one. Oh, you're going to elaborate.
No, it can, and most of the time it does. So there's two scenarios in this. Is that one is a lot of people think they're like, oh, I'm never gonna incarnate again. Screw this crap, and I'm not, and I hate,
I told them I didn't want to come here in the first place.
yeah, whatever. And guess what? I have news for you. You chose this, you wanted it,
Yes.
and there's lineups of souls wanting to incarnate on this planet. And over 80% of the people who do incarnate on this planet Earth right now in 2022 will incarnate in an extreme impoverished environment or society where most 80% of the population right now on Earth lives in 80, like less than $10 a day. So like
Wow.
not even, they don't even have shoes on their feet kind of scenario. And there's, but then why would someone want to incarnate in that environment? And the reason is because what happens is when you're in spirit form, you can evolve and you will evolve. However, when you're incarnated, you have all the components you need to incarnate and you will maximize your evolution, even if it's, you die of starvation at the age of 5 because you're living in some poor country or disease or something like that. So you will evolve all the time, and there's a very, very, very high probability that you will incarnate in another lifetime. And I joke with my students, I'm like, you know how many lifetimes you probably said, I'm never coming back? And yet here you are, you're
Damn
back.
it.
Right? But no, and the reason I say this is because I want my students to really feel like this is an empowering thing. I chose this. I chose to come here. So rather than playing the martyr or the victim or this sucks or I just want to bide my time and wait till I die and just this crappy lifetime. Don't get me wrong. We've all had stuff happen to us in our lifetime. However, if you can try to maximize this life, make the most out of it, try to grow the most, evolve the most, become the most at peace, do the most healing and clearing you can, then possibly, not guaranteed, but possibly when you incarnate in another lifetime, you'll have done a lot of this work and you'll have a good head start in the next lifetime when you do incarnate, and make the most of the next one too. Like, let's make the most of this one and the most of the next one and really embrace and welcome this lifetime that you're in.
Do we get to choose where we incarnate? And when I say where, like if we are going to incarnate on Earth, do we get to choose the city, the country, etc.?
Yeah, so what happens is when we incarnate, before we incarnate, we're in the astral realm with our soul family. And there's certain members of our soul family who help us before we incarnate. So we have like a preparation period that we're like, okay, we're just about to incarnate. So we work with usually, and again, I don't like the hierarchy thing, but higher level souls
Right.
who help the souls who are just about to incarnate. They will work with those souls, and to plan and prepare, things like where they're going to incarnate, what country or culture they're going to incarnate in, who's going to be their parents. All those things are basically planned and ready so that when the sperm meets the egg, and then the soul's like, okay, now here's my time, my opportunity to come in. So, for example, I chose to be born through my mother, not necessarily so I could be with my mother. However, it's more to be with my dad, who is a member of my soul family. And whereas I have incarnated with my mom in several lifetimes, but it's more in this case, this lifetime, it was more so I could be with my dad. And then when my dad died in 2001, he actually came to me in 2004 and taught me how to channel so I could teach others how to channel. But while he was alive, we had a really, really cool connection. I always wanted to be around him. And I definitely chose to incarnate so I could be with my dad in this lifetime. And that I checked. And I
That's,
know that
yeah,
to be certain.
100%
So
true.
it's a beautiful, wonderful thing when you
It
really
is.
learn this stuff at deeper levels. And also to know that you are empowered to make the most out of this lifetime. Like, let's try to make the most out of it.
Is there a way we can find out what our purpose in life is? Why
Yeah.
we chose to incarnate?
What was that last part?
Why we chose to incarnate?
So I want to make it clear that a lot of people think, okay, what is my purpose? Why am I here? And I want to make it clear that there's more than one purpose. There's many, many reasons. A lot of people think like, oh, I just have one purpose and one thing. No, no, you don't. You have many. It might be, you have a child, and maybe one of your reasons is to raise that child to be a healthy adult. Another reason might be I'm meant to work out certain things, or it might be I'm meant to grow and evolve in a certain way. So what I do with it's a more than just an answer. I actually have to take my students through a very specific exercises where they work with their spirit guides to figure out the many different reasons why you chose to incarnate, and what your real purposes are. And I say that plural on purpose. What your real reasons are, and how you can go about fulfilling those, or at least um, getting as close to fulfilling them as possible. And we delve into specific area, all these different areas of your life, not just um, you know what's my life purpose. It's like maybe it's meant to be a mentor to people. Maybe it's meant to be in the healthcare industry or the helping industry. It could be lots of different things, but let's find out with your guides as to what you're meant to do from this point going forward. And also, I want to say another thing is during different seasons of your life, these purposes might shift slightly or might shift completely. So when I was younger and I was raising my daughter as a full-time single father, I knew that that was one of my many purposes, was to raise my daughter to be a healthy adult. And now that she's an adult, that shifted. She's my daughter. I still love her, all that, but she's not really my daughter. She's like a friend, an acquaintance. And so we talk, we hang
Yes.
out, but I raised her. I'm done with that. Like, does she call me and say, "Oh, Dad, my car's broken down. What do I do?" And I go, and stuff like that. Yeah, I help her
Call a
in that.
mechanic.
But yeah, she doesn't know, right? So
Yes,
because she's still, in her 20s, early 20s. So I help and mentor her, but that's not my role anymore, is to be the parent.
that makes total
That
sense.
that role's done. So what's my new purpose going forward? And my new purpose in my case is to teach people how to channel so I can make this world a better place. That's my main purpose and my main focus for career. But however, I have other purposes for like relationships, and other purposes for hobbies and health, and on and on and on, that I am fulfilling and very intentional about because I work with my spirit guides and I channel the answers on how to know what my purposes are in this season of my life, which might change in different seasons of my life.
Very, very cool. I can't believe it's 47 minutes into the show already. It feels like it's been 10 minutes. Um, it's been an amazing show. We've had some great, great questions from the audience, people watching, which is just awesome. If you do have a last minute question, type it in to the chat. I will try to get to it. Uh, as we're waiting to see if there is any last minute questions, Ken, how can people get in touch with you if they want to do what I did? I'm going to kind of change my view here so people can see a little better. I'm going to lean over. If they want to take your courses, I do this on purpose because Ken gave me I don't know if anybody notices, but there's new certificates on my wall. They're better color than there was. So if someone wants to take your course, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you?
Yes, definitely go to my website, channelinginc.com, and you'll see everything there. You'll see all the events. Right now, I have a whole bunch of different events, some in person, some online. I have intro classes, I have full certification workshops, just lots and lots of options. Channelinginc.com is the best way. And you could just go there and register. You don't even have to communicate with me. Just go there, register. I'll see the email come in, and then you can just show up at the class and the workshop, and buckle your seatbelts, because if you want the slow, drawn out growth, that's not me. I don't do it slowly. But if you want the quick,
No.
accelerated version of spiritual growth and learning how to channel really, really well at really high levels, please just sign up. I would suggest channeling level 1 is the best start, because two reasons. One is it's the best bang for your buck, and number two is because that's where you will get the most growth. But also it's a prerequisite for levels 2 and levels 3, which is the really, really advanced stuff. And it's fun, like all weekend, all the whole entire class, we're just having fun,
It's
exercise after exercise. It's like personal growth on steroids in a good way. And yeah, like I said, buckle up, it's fun.
And it's an important thing to remember. A lot of people have taken other courses over Zoom. It's not like that. You're not going to sit with a pad and a pen and be taking notes. That's not the way Ken works. It is very um, back and forth, lots of stuff. He'll talk about channeling your soul, and guess what? You'll channel your soul. He'll
That's it.
talk about channeling your higher self. You will channel your higher self. So be
Yeah.
prepared for 8 hours to go by like that.
So
I
far.
speak from experience. I know a lot of people think I promote Ken too much. I don't think I do. I think if and this has been coming up for me a lot, so I'm going to say it right here. If tomorrow morning we have 7.9 billion people on Earth, if tomorrow morning each one of those souls, 7.9 billion people, woke up and said, "You know what? I'm going to learn how to channel." Holy crap! What a beautiful world this would be.
Yeah. Oh.
It really would. Um, I'm going to end this on a Halloween note. Yeah, we got 9 minutes. You might have to. I have another question that I want to bring up too. But Pamela asks, in the spirit of Halloween/ghost, why do lost souls become lost souls?
Great question. Um, so, what happens is when somebody dies, let's say, for example, 1,000 people they die of a car accident. Pretty much all of them are going to go to the astral realm. Some of them might not and become a lost soul and go to the in between realm. If 1,000 people die of a heart attack, pretty much all of them are going to go to the astral realm. Maybe once in a while, one of them might become a lost soul. Same thing with suicide. If somebody died, like 1,000 of them, they'll cross over. They'll go to the astral realm. Maybe one of them, maybe none of them will become a lost soul. And let's say it's another way that somebody dies. 1,000 of them will pretty much most of them all the time will cross over. Maybe once in a while one won't. So I don't want people to get attached to, or if someone dies this specific way, they'll definitely become a lost soul. Get rid of that. Every time I check and channel that, that's not the case. It's just a random thing. As to why specifically some do and some don't, I'm not 100% sure if anyone ever figures it out 100%, like why, because I keep getting, every time I check, there's so many different variables. A lot of people who die and are in the in-between realm, or these lost souls, they're lost. They don't even know that they're dead, or maybe they do, but they don't know how to get to the other side. Some of them are stuck. Some of them are really volatile. Some of them can be actually really detrimental. So when we see those ghost hunter shows or these haunted houses, they're pretty much never like the ones that are in the astral realm. They're the ones who are lost souls. So don't tell me about any haunted houses or any of those, like, grave or whatever, because I'll find those lost souls and I'll just cross them over, and then those places won't be haunted anymore. Because for me, it's not about financial gain. It's more about those lost souls. Imagine if you became a lost soul. Wouldn't you want someone to help you cross over to the astral realm to be with your soul family, so you can get the care and the need that you like, the healing that you need when you cross over. So they're not bad. These souls aren't bad. Like a lot of people think, oh, they're um, demonic and
Demonic.
stuff like that. Yeah, and they're not. They're not bad. They can do bad things, but the thing that happens is the more that they're in this in between realm, the longer they're in this in between realm, the more senile they can get. The more they can not know what they're doing, and they can actually become more detrimental. So these are the ones that you'll see in these haunted shows, where they're like slamming the cupboards or moving things or spooking people, or all that. Those are the ones. And again, they're not bad. They just need help. They need to be crossed over, and I teach my students how to do that. First thing is identify them, and then cross them over in a very safe way, and make sure you're doing it protected and you're not putting yourself in harm's way, anything like that. I suggest to my students that you don't go out looking for these things, but if
Thank
if
you.
you if they happen to come across you, then you know how to, number one, identify them, and then number two, how to take care of them and deal with them in a good, healthy, safe way. So this is like, like speaking of Halloween, like, is this really spooky and scary? Well, by the time you're done, like my channeling level 2, you'll never be scared of souls again, because there's nothing to be scared of. You'll know who they are, how to identify them, because I'll actually teach you and we'll work through these exercises with you, so that you can do it on your own when I'm not around. And then you can make sure that you're operating always in the light and things are safe. That's really important.
Ken, I have taken all your courses, and I'm about to take. No, I haven't taken all your courses. I've taken the majority of your courses. I'm about to take your final course. Um, but I still have that phobia, and that's why I asked this question. I have an absolute phobia of haunted houses. Are they real?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're real. Yeah.
They're
So
real.
they're, like I said, they're lost souls.
Yes.
And just to clarify, is not all haunted houses are haunted. They might
Yes.
have been at some point, or they might have never been. It might just be rumors like, oh, this person died in this house, so it must be haunted. Again, like I said earlier, most people who die, they'll cross over to the astral realm right away. If you take 1,000 people, pretty much all 1,000 will. Once in a
Yes.
while, you might get one who doesn't. And then those are the ones in the in between realm. And so, and also too, what could happen is that house might have been haunted for a certain period of time, but then that lost soul did eventually find its way and cross over. Either another human helped it, or it just found its way to the other side, so it's not haunted anymore. Or it could legitimately be haunted. So I have gone into places, and there's supposed like hauntings or whatever, and I just go in because I'm protected. So we talked about this earlier, where um, as you do your spiritual upgrades, and this is why I highly recommend you do spiritual upgrades, so that your container and your protection field and all that is really strong. So when you do go into a scenario like that, you're not as permeable, so it won't affect you like detrimentally, less likely. But first of all, even from a distance, I can identify these things and then go, oh, there's a lost soul there. Okay, cross it over. There's another lost soul over there. Okay, cross it over. And I'm not
Exactly.
even near the vicinity, and then I just come into the house that's supposedly haunted, and it's not haunted anymore because I've already cleared it and cleansed the place and all that. So that's property clearing. And property clearing, one of the many things in property clearing, that's not just the one thing, but one of the many things is making
No.
sure that there's no lost souls in there. And that's one of the first things I always get my students to check before they do a property clearing, because if there is a lost soul that could interfere with the property clearing process that they're being guided to do with their spirit guide. So it's quite a complex and a multifaceted process of property clearing. However, the biggest one is making sure there's no lost souls on that property, which would include a haunted house in this case, in this question.
Okay, we got 3 minutes left. Let's talk about I think the most haunted house that I can think of, the Amity House, the Amityville Horror Show. There's an actual house, the Amity House, real Hollywood.
No, there's one
Question
there.
mark. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll cross that over once I get off. So
Oh, he's gonna kill the Amityville Horror House.
totally. Yeah. Oh yeah. Cause it's not, I care more about the soul.
Yes,
The soul is lost, and that takes precedent over someone's financial gain or whatever.
hundred
Like,
percent.
like I care for souls whether they're incarnated or not. I really do. Anyone who's met me and taken my classes and my workshops, I love you. I love you on a soul level. I really do, like from the deepest core of me. And I just won't tolerate coming across a lost soul who is lost and not crossing them over. Like, to me, that just tears me up inside to know that that soul is in pain and struggling and in suffering, and their soul family is wanting that, like, waiting for that
Yes,
soul to be crossed over so they can be reunited again, and that takes precedent over everything. So yeah, there is one in that case.
I always use the example of I'm a medium, so I do a lot of work with loved ones that have crossed over. What if Ken came to me and he wanted me to get a message from his dad? Well, if his dad's not crossed over, I got to go looking for him, and it's going to be a lot harder to try to get a message across, probably impossible if he hasn't been properly crossed over. So, and I think of all the things Ken has taught me over the years, crossing over souls is probably one of the most rewarding things I do. And I can
Mm.
say that with all honesty. Ellie and I can tell you story after story about it. So, um,
And also too, like, what if that, like my dad in this case, in this example though, like what if he's struggling, and what if he's
yeah,
he's lost, and going senile, and he's like, he doesn't know what's going on, and he's afraid, and all these other things. Like, that's not cool. That's not fair to just leave him in that state. So
no,
let's get him reunited with his soul family,
the way it's
and,
supposed to be.
that's, yeah, that's more important. Good.
Very
Agree?
cool. amazing hour, Ken. Again, if you want to reach Ken, channelinginc.com is his website. Very, very user friendly. You can book a one-on-one session with him. You can book any of his courses that he offers. As far as where you're going to be live, is there any events that's coming up in the near future?
Yeah, so I have a couple events that are coming up. I have readings with Ken's mentees. That's where you can ask questions about personal stuff. Where, in this case, Kellyanne Vass on Tuesday. So this coming up is right away. Readings with Ken's mentees. She will. You can call in, and it'll be a live stream where you'll actually be able to exchange different questions about like what's going on in your life, a spirit guide reading, or Akashic Records reading in her case, because she does Akashic Records as
Oh,
well,
very
which is
cool.
really cool. Yeah, super, super cool. Then I
She's
also
so
have,
talented.
after that, I have the intro channeling workshop coming up next week. And then after that, I'm going out to Whistler, British Columbia. So anyone in the Vancouver, British Columbia, it's going to be a day retreat, and there's a whole bunch of practitioners. So please come out to that. And
Is there
again,
still tickets available for that in
there,
Whistler?
there is, yes. And so please go to my website for the Eventbrite link where you can get tickets. And that's
Awesome.
all shown on my website. And then after that, then I have a Unity of Calgary service that I'm going to be presenting at. And I'm going to be teaching people how to channel their soul and connect with their soul, and also how to do self-love. There's,
Oh,
and,
very
and
cool.
when I say self-love, like I'll actually take you through very, very powerful self-love exercises. So
Is
it's
that
not just
open to the
talking about
public?
it. Anyone could go. It's free to attend or by donation, but just
Okay.
show up. And again, the address and the details. It's going to be November 27th, I believe. It's a Sunday morning, and you just show up, and it's going to be.
And that they can find that at channelinginc.com.
That's correct. Yeah. So, and then I have my intro channeling workshops and my certification workshops. My channeling level 1 is coming up in the first week of November, and there's ongoing ones. So just make sure you check one that works for you, and take the leap and sign up and watch. Like I said, buckle your seatbelts, because watch your spiritual growth just skyrocket.
That is so cool. Well, everybody, we're overtime. We're 1 minute overtime. If we were on TV, they would have cut us off by now. So our next Ask Ken show will be November 23rd. I can't believe we're coming to the end of the year, Ken. We only got 2 more shows of 2022. November 23rd. It's a Wednesday night, 7 p.m. If you have questions you want to ask and you have them now, you can always message us. Send them in. If you see me looking this way, it's because I keep a spreadsheet of questions people have asked during the week. So until November 23rd, on behalf of Ken Lewicki and myself, Kevin Hughes of Cavelli Channeling, have a great month, everybody.
See you, everyone. Thank you.